Hello. Don't forget to like and subscribe before starting the video. Who is ChesterAArthur? ChesterAArthur was the 21st President of the United States, serving from 1881 to 1885. Born in 1829 in Vermont, Arthur grew up in a devout Baptist family and went on to attend Union College in Schenectady, New York. After graduating, he studied law and began a successful career as a lawyer and political operative in New York City. He became involved in the Republican Party and was appointed collector of the Port of New York by President Ulysses S. Grant. During his presidency, Arthur made significant contributions to civil service reform and foreign policy. He supported the Pendleton Civil Service Reform Act, which aimed to reduce corruption and patronage in the federal government. He also negotiated a treaty with China and worked to modernize the U.S. Navy. Additionally, Arthur made efforts to address civil rights issues, including appointing African Americans to federal positions. In this video, we will delve deeper into the life and legacy of ChesterAArthur, exploring his early years and political career, his presidential campaign and election, and his accomplishments and challenges as president. By the end of this video, you will have a better understanding of this often overlooked president and his impact on American history. ChesterAArthur was born in Fairfield, Vermont in 1829. He was the fifth of 9 children in a Baptist family. His father was a Baptist preacher and his mother was a homemaker. When Arthur was 14 years old, his family moved to Schenectady, New York, where he attended Union College. He graduated in 1848 and went on to study law, eventually becoming a lawyer in New York City. Arthur's early career in law was successful, and he quickly rose to prominence in New York City politics. He was a member of the Republican Party and became involved in the political machine led by Senator Roscoe Conkling. In 1871, President Ulysses S. Grant appointed Arthur as collector of the Port of New York, a lucrative and powerful position that oversaw the collection of customs duties. As collector of the Port of New York, Arthur was responsible for appointing employees to the Customs Service. He quickly became known as a spoilsman, a term used to describe politicians who awarded government positions based on political patronage rather than merit. His ties to Conkling and the political machine made him a controversial figure, and he faced accusations of corruption and nepotism. Despite these controversies, Arthur continued to rise in New York politics. He became involved in the factional politics of the Republican Party, and his political connections helped him secure the nomination for vice president in 1880. When President James A. Garfield was assassinated in 1881, Arthur became president, much to the surprise of many Americans who saw him as a political hack. Arthur's early life and career laid the foundation for his later political success. His education at Union College gave him a solid grounding in the classics and the law, and his work as a lawyer and political operative in New York City helped him build a network of powerful allies. However, his reputation as a spoilsman and his ties to the political machine led by Senator Conkling would continue to dog him throughout his presidency. ChesterAArthur's nomination as the Republican candidate for president in 1880 was a surprise to many. At the time, he was serving as the collector of the Port of New York and was known more for his connections to the political machine led by Senator Roscoe Conkling than for his political accomplishments. However, Arthur had been an early supporter of the eventual Republican nominee, James A. Garfield, and was seen as a compromise candidate between the various factions of the Republican Party. The Republican convention in Chicago was a contentious affair, with 3 major candidates vying for the nomination: Senator James G. Blaine, Senator John Sherman, and former President Ulysses S. Grant. After 34 ballots failed to produce a clear winner, Arthur's name was put forward as a compromise candidate. Despite his lack of national recognition, Arthur won the nomination on the 36th ballot. Arthur's running mate was Garrett Hobart, a lawyer and businessman from New Jersey. Hobart was chosen in part to balance the ticket, as Arthur was seen as a representative of the political machine in New York while Hobart represented the business interests of the Mid-Atlantic region. In the general election, Arthur faced off against Democrat Winfield Scott Hancock, a Union general during the Civil War. The issues that dominated the campaign included civil service reform, tariffs, and the role of the federal government in regulating industry. Arthur ran on a platform of civil service reform and modernizing the Navy, while Hancock focused on issues of states' rights and reducing tariffs. The election was a close one, with Arthur winning by a margin of less than 10,000 votes in the popular vote and 214 to 155 in the electoral vote. Despite his unexpected victory, Arthur faced many challenges as president, including divisions within his own party and pressure from the public to continue the reforms he had promised during the campaign. ChesterAArthur's presidency was marked by a number of significant accomplishments and challenges. Despite his reputation as a spoilsman, Arthur surprised many of his critics by championing civil service reform and supporting the Pendleton Civil Service Reform Act of 1883, which created a merit-based system for government employment. Arthur believed that the civil service should be based on merit rather than political patronage, and he worked to create a more professional and efficient bureaucracy. In addition to his domestic reforms, Arthur also made significant strides in foreign policy. He negotiated a treaty with China that allowed for increased trade between the two countries and recognized the rights of Chinese citizens in the United States. Arthur also worked to modernize the U.S. Navy, increasing its size and power in order to project American strength abroad. One of the most contentious issues of Arthur's presidency was the debate over tariffs. Arthur supported the idea of protective tariffs as a way to promote American industry and protect American jobs. In 1883, he signed the Tariff Act, which increased tariffs on a number of imported goods. However, the tariff issue would continue to be a source of debate and division within the Republican Party. Arthur also made efforts to address civil rights issues, despite facing opposition from members of his own party. He supported the Civil Rights Act of 1875, which prohibited discrimination on the basis of race in public accommodations and jury service. He also appointed several African Americans to federal positions, including Frederick Douglass as the U.S. Minister to Haiti. Despite his accomplishments, Arthur faced significant challenges during his presidency. He was often at odds with members of his own party, particularly the Conkling faction that had supported him during his rise to power. He also faced pressure from the public to continue his civil service and civil rights reforms, which sometimes conflicted with the interests of powerful political and business interests. In the end, ChesterAArthur's presidency was a complex and multifaceted one. He surprised many by championing civil service reform and making strides in foreign policy, but also faced significant challenges and opposition from within his own party. His legacy as president remains a subject of debate and discussion among historians and political analysts. ChesterAArthur's legacy as president is a subject of debate among historians and political analysts. While he is often remembered as a somewhat forgotten or overlooked president, his contributions to civil service reform and foreign policy cannot be denied. Arthur's support for the Pendleton Civil Service Reform Act helped to create a more professional and merit-based civil service system, which helped to curb political patronage and corruption. Additionally, his efforts to modernize the U.S. Navy helped to establish the United States as a global military power. Unfortunately, Arthur's declining health during his presidency and his death just 2 years after leaving office has overshadowed some of his accomplishments. Arthur was diagnosed with Bright's disease, a serious kidney condition, during his presidency, and his health continued to decline in the years that followed. He passed away at the age of 57 in 1886. Despite his relatively short time in office and his declining health, ChesterAArthur left a lasting impact on the presidency and on American politics. His legacy as a reform-minded president who championed civil service reform and modernized the U.S. Navy continues to be studied and debated by scholars and historians. In conclusion, ChesterAArthur was the 21st President of the United States who made significant contributions to the civil service system, foreign policy, and the modernization of the U.S. Navy during his presidency from 1881 to 1885. He was a man who overcame his reputation as a spoilsman and worked to promote merit-based appointments in the civil service. Arthur's legacy is somewhat overlooked due to his declining health and early death just 2 years after leaving office. However, his impact on American politics and the presidency cannot be denied. He was a president who worked to make government more efficient and responsive to the needs of the people. As we look back on the life and presidency of ChesterAArthur, we are reminded of the importance of reform-minded leaders who strive to make a positive impact on society. Thank you for watching this video. If you found it informative, please like, comment, and subscribe to the channel for more content like this in the future.